Hello, I'm Richard Chambers, Senior Internal Audit Advisor at Audit Board, and welcome to another in my continuing series, Agents of Change. I'm joined today by Kristen Sullivan, the Global Sustainability and Climate Services Leader with Deloitte. Kristen has more than 25 years of experience with Deloitte, beginning her career in Deloitte's Audit and Advisory Services. She now leads the Sustainability and ESG Services practice. Kristen, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Kristen, in my book, Agents of Change, I make the case that internal auditors must embrace change and seek to drive value in their organizations. I define agents of change as those internal auditors who are catalysts for transformation in the organizations they serve. What's your view on internal auditors' role as an agent of change when it comes to sustainability, and why is it more important now for internal auditors than maybe in the past?
I love the framing agents of change. I use the term catalyst quite frequently. When you really step back and think about this whole sustainability, climate, just transition movement, this is one of the biggest business transformation opportunities in a generation, the biggest capital markets transformation opportunities in a generation. In order for capital to truly be unlocked and allocated towards long-term value-generating opportunities, there has to be a discipline, rigor, governance, infrastructure within every organization. Internal auditors become central to really driving an integration of ESG considerations into the management systems, into the culture of the organization to really drive meaningful information and insights that drive decision making. And so I completely agree. The catalyst role it's just such a tremendous opportunity for the overall internal audit profession.
Well, yeah, I think you're right, and to me, I think you kind of made the point. It's a great opportunity, and it's probably the most important opportunity in a generation. And so I think it's kind of the convergence of the opportunity and the abilities. So that's great to hear your point of view on that. So what should internal auditors be considering in advance of the SEC's proposed rules?
Yeah, it's a really far-reaching proposal. We don't know where it will land. What is very clear is certainly a direction of travel that puts an emphasis on the need to drive that integration that I mentioned, and really think about how do you internalize some of these factors, evaluations of performance and data that have largely been managed outside of the traditional internal management systems, as well as the monitoring and governance mechanisms within an organization. And so regardless of where the final rule lands, the internal audit organization is going to be central to really either establishing or enhancing the governance structure, which really centers around the control environment. How do you truly integrate in a systematic, disciplined ways an understanding around how climate-related risks and opportunities impact the business, create opportunities to capture, and then put in place mechanisms to actually establish very clear and defined processes and controls to generate access to information. You know, I think that this is a tremendous opportunity to help where internal auditors play that catalyst role in driving that intersection of risk and compliance. Because we are seeing that trend, the trend around regulatory policy requirements is only going to accelerate, but there has to be a systematic way to really tie risk and opportunity to compliance objectives. And I think that's really where internal auditors, our first question when we work with a client is, what's the role of internal audit right now?
One of the top challenges that leaders face in 2022 is recruiting and retaining talent. And that's true for internal audit, but it's true really enterprise-wide. But what strategies are you using to attract new talent in ESG and retain the top performers?
Talent, just to echo your point, is the critical priority, I think, for any organization, especially as we see this evolution in expectations of corporate entities. The infrastructure needed to deliver on a strategy that's going to be resilient. And then when you start to think about the capabilities that are necessary, the skill sets, just a different universe of competencies and capabilities than internal audit or even external assurance providers, external auditors have tapped into. I think we saw that trend start with, investing more heavily into data science, data analytics to drive internal audit, execution, insights, as well as the external audit. And I think that's no different as we start to really expand and better articulate and understand where those capabilities need to come in so that we can actually deliver on performing our services in a high quality way in accordance with standards. We clearly have priorities in terms of talent acquisition, right? Bringing in those unique and different skill sets. Also, a very intense focus on upskilling, learning, awareness within our entire practice. We believe very strongly as an organization, we need to mobilize our entire firm, the 400,000 plus professionals that we have globally, to bring a command of sustainability, climate-related issues, equity-related issues to everything we do, but in particular as it relates to internal audit, external assurance, and external audit. We really need to bring that command of different types of subject matter that are being valued by stakeholders in the market.
Yeah, that's good to know. I think organizations are waking up to the challenges of recruiting and retaining the top talent, particularly with the risks becoming more diverse and the skills that it takes to address them being more diverse.
And to your point, if I could just add on that retention point, I think every organization recognizes that there needs to be a clear and credible attention to the broader, not just values-based position that organizations take, but positions more broadly as a retention tool around sustainability and climate-related issues. And so that's no different for very specific skill sets that organizations are looking for.
Absolutely. One of the most transformative capacity multipliers, it's a term I use to talk about how organizations can achieve more capacity without adding a lot of additional resources. So one of the most transformative capacity multipliers that can be deployed is technology. And I guess I would ask, how are you leveraging technology to help ESG clients and team members become more efficient and effective?
I couldn't agree more. Technology is going to be the avenue to truly accelerate attention and rigor and the professionalization of integrating ESG considerations into management systems, into strategies, into governance, and then ultimately into the reporting process. We conducted a survey of over 300 C-suite executives to just gain a pulse on the market in terms of preparedness as we start to see regulatory requirements really take shape. Over 90% of the respondents to our survey indicated that they will, in the next year, in their next reporting year, be investing in technology to really enable more, higher quality, a more controlled environment around this information. So I completely agree. Technology will be central. When you think about some of the challenges from a risk, a data perspective that's central to internal auditors, central to external auditors, there's so much that can really be, to your point, sort of amplified and accelerated through definitional clarity within technology around data uncertainties, assumptions that go into data around how do you evaluate risk and risk of misstatement and meaningful and fair presentation. And so I think that we're seeing it in the market. We're investing heavily in how we advise our clients, as well as how we deliver our services, just given that quality foundation that's so central and the expectations of the capital markets and the sophistication that's growing in terms of evaluating quality, transparency, and sufficiency of external disclosure around ESG performance.
Good to know. I often get asked, Kristen, for my predictions on what the future for internal audit looks like. What does the decade ahead look like for internal audit? If you had a crystal ball that you could look into for the future, what do you believe is the biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity for the profession in the next 10 years when it comes to ESG?
Boy, do I wish I had a crystal ball. Don't we all? I think the biggest challenge, quite honestly, is can we move fast enough to really meet the moment in the market? We talk a lot about, within the external audit profession, continuing to solidify and drive the relevance of the profession in the capital markets, understanding what the capital markets are expecting, what broader stakeholders are expecting. I think that translates very well to internal auditors. I mean, I think just where we started, going back to where we started, this opportunity to really be a strategic catalyst, a strategic advisor, an agent of change. And I think the more we can, and rapidly, encourage and sort of open the appreciation within the internal audit community around how to really transition and use this opportunity to become that strategic advisor. And it's not going to be easy, right? None of this is easy. But I think that, fast forward 10 years, organizations are going to look differently at that sort of audit, risk, compliance part of the organization as a real accelerator versus more of that sort of pure compliance, role that they play.
Kristen, you've given us a lot of really great insight and a lot of good food for thought on a topic that is becoming increasingly critical in terms of risk, and that's the ESG related risk. And I thank you for joining us today. And I thank all of you for being with us as well. I'm Richard Chambers, the Senior Internal Audit Advisor of Audit Board.